can't believe I'm about to say this. Battlefield 6 might break the cycle. EA might be the first major Western publisher to wake up, smell what the gamers are cooking, and deliver to them exactly what they've been asking for without any compromises. This game is so much fun, and it's brought the boys back together, which is incredibly difficult to do nowadays, as many of you guys might know. I don't think that people fully comprehend that if this game hits the way that it's projecting, the way that it's trending, and the way that it's presenting itself, it is going to rock the foundations of the entire Western AAA industry. And we have to thank Activision for it, because if it wasn't for them fumbling with Call of Duty, none of this would be possible. Sweet justice. For far too long have US publishers had their head up the ass of Hollywood, following these guys lock and step, mirroring every single move, every single grift, all because they thought it was going to make them more money, without realizing that the true prize was right in front of them the entire time. Dedicated vocal audiences screaming in almost perfect unison, telling them exactly what they want. You cannot find a better customer base than one that will tell you exactly what they will throw money at. People are going to be throwing money at Battlefield 6. Those voices have fallen on deaf ears for far too long. And some of our favorite games and favorite franchises aren't even recognizable anymore. That's not because we changed, it's because they changed. And if Battlefield 6 and EA can prove that the old recipe is still the best, nobody's going to be able to ignore it. Little known fact, I am a Battlefield stan. Not saying that I'm good at it, just saying that I love the franchise, and I've loved it since Battlefield 2. I've logged more hours into it than I can count across nearly every release up until Battlefield 4. It is one game that I've probably spent the most time playing with my friends growing up, and yeah, the last decade for the series has been pretty rough, but I've always had a soft spot for it. It is one of those games where I will just completely avoid every single bad release entirely, just so I don't taint the memories that I have or lower the standards that I've always held it to. But everything that I have seen and played of Battlefield 6 so far, this is Battlefield. The Limp Bizkit trailer, the explosions, the grit, the destruction, and oh my god, that shattered glass headshot sound effect is so clean. Everything is pointing in one direction. They finally made the game that we've been asking for. This looks like the Battlefield that I remember. This is what people have wanted, and it's what we've always described when we say that Battlefield is better than Call of Duty. This looks like the game that deserves the throne. Now, something I've already roasted EA for a couple times already is that wild 100 million player projection that they slapped onto Battlefield 6. They're counting both the base game and the free-to-play Battle Royale that's going to be coming later on, and I still think that that number is ridiculous. That's more players than the entire franchise has put together to date, and only a handful of games in history have ever even hit that mark. But with that said, I cannot ignore what that signals. EA believes in this game. Good or bad, they've gone all in, and while I doubt it'll hit 100 million players, I think that the final product, if it delivers even half of what it's been teasing, this thing is going to erupt across the industry. Now, you guys know me. In most cases, I'll be pushing back when a publisher is trying to chase another live service win, but EA is a live service publisher. That's the ecosystem that they built for themselves, and they have some of the most recognized titles in the industry. So for once, I can't really fault them for going all in on Battlefield 6, because right now, they have a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Casual military shooters are in the worst state that they've ever been, and their biggest rival, Call of Duty, is at an all-time low both in reputation and actual player numbers. Activision, blinded by greed and deaf to its community, has drained the soul out of its franchise. They have wheeled it out year over year without pause, never giving their developers a chance to improve the engine. They've gutted their staff through layoffs. They've broken player immersion with American Dad and Nicki Minaj skins in a game that used to be about military realism, all in some desperate attempt to copy Fortnite's virality. And then there's Warzone, billed as a free-to-play game that's been strung along by yearly weapon resets that practically require players to go and buy the latest full game just to be able to keep up. It's disrupted the flow, the balance, the investment, and players are clearly fed up. The result, well, the franchise is down to lows of 40 to 50,000 concurrent players on Steam. Now, sure, Steam isn't the full picture, but that graph is pointing in the same direction everywhere else too. And that's exactly why I think that EA and Battlefield are in a perfect position to be able to break through. They have a real shot to win players back, to rebuild trust in their reputation after the failure and disaster that was Battlefield 2042, and finally deliver the kind of accessible, competitive military shooter that's been completely missing from the market for years. I'm going to say something incredibly controversial. I think that EA has become self-aware. And yeah, I know that sounds absolutely insane. This is the same company that's been reskinning the same sports game year after year without any changes, but look at what's been happening to these guys. Earlier this year, EA admitted that player spending had dropped significantly in FC 2025. That is their biggest moneymaker. And then came Dragon Age the Veilguard, which reportedly missed sales targets by half. These are not minor hiccups. These are warning shots, and EA heard them. Combine that with the decline of Call of Duty, the outrage of players across the board, and what you get is a rare moment of clarity, one that even EA can't ignore. I mean, speaking of that self-awareness, EA CEO Andrew Wilson actually said something recently that even I couldn't believe. At a recent investor meeting, he was asked the usual question, whether EA planned to follow the trend and raise base prices up to $80. His answer, we aren't looking to make any changes on pricing at this stage. But games journalists seem to completely miss the clothesline that he had laid out on those price increases. He went on to say, we already offer a fairly broad pricing scheme across our various products. When you think about it, from free-to-play to our premium products and our deluxe editions, our orientation is always to capture the full spectrum of pricing so that we can serve our players in the best way possible and offer them the greatest value. We'll continue to look at opportunities to deliver great value to our players through various pricing schemes over the course of time, but no dramatic changes planned yet. Now, what he's really saying here, without directly saying it, is we already charge $80. We don't need to raise the base price to do it. And honestly, credit where credit's due, he's absolutely right. This conversation should have never been about raising the price floor. It should have been about offering real value across different price points. Xbox, Nintendo, Ubisoft, they have all flirted with or committed to the idea of $80 base prices, but every single one of them already sells deluxe editions and collector's editions at $80 or above. If these publishers want to make money, that's fine, but make your deluxe editions actually worth $80. Don't just hike the entry fee and call it necessary just because you suck at selling other editions of your games. Now imagine something like that coming from a company like EA, who has one of the worst reputations for squeezing players, but it is a surprisingly grounded stance, and we combine that with everything that we've seen with Battlefield 6, and it really does feel like these guys have started listening, or at the very least, they've stopped actively tuning us out. I mean, take a look at this. In an interview with Double Tap, Battlefield 6's design director was asked directly whether or not we'd see the exact same kind of bizarre tone-breaking skins that have taken over Call of Duty, and his response was, I don't think it needs Nicki Minaj. Let's keep it real, keep it grounded. This has been one of the most consistent complaints about Call of Duty, and while everybody likes to say that it prints money, EA clearly thinks that it's not worth the cost, not if it breaks immersion, not if it ruins the tone. That one line alone says all you need to know about where Battlefield 6 is headed, and it'll tell you more than any trailer ever could. I think the thing that really ties this all together is that EA just went in on a simple idea. Just make the game that players have been asking for. And then they back that idea with real action. Instead of just following Activision's model by splitting up all their teams across multiple projects and rotating yearly releases, or just using it as a marketing phrase like they did with Battlefield 2042, EA pulled every single Battlefield studio onto one single game. One unified effort. And I don't think that people fully realize just how massive of a commitment that is from them. Financially, it is the equivalent of spending the budget for 2 or 3 games on one single game. And yet, that's exactly what needed to happen, because it was that fragmented development, the split responsibilities, that gave us some of the worst entries over the last decade. Outside of Battlefield 1, which definitely held its own, everything else felt like it was a compromised product. But this time is different. All the teams are working together. Each one of them is focused on what they're best at. They're all aiming to make one great game. And for the first time in years, it shows. You know, normally when I hear a developer say something like Battlefield 2 was a big inspiration, I would just roll my eyes. That's marketing language that we've heard a dozen times before, but this time, I believe them. One of the leads even said, when you look for excellence in our legacy, that's where you find it, and you can see it. You can see it in the tone, in the destruction, in the pacing, in the gunplay. This is not just nostalgia bait. I think there's a tagline that comes over the radio where somebody will say, hey, there's a big fucking tank in your area. I love that kind of shit. That's what I've been wanting back from Battlefield. Journalists aren't covering for them this time. For all intents and purposes, this is a return to form. The kind of design that earned Battlefield its name in the first place. And when it's this visible, it's really hard not to take this game seriously. And beyond that, I think these guys have already proven that they're listening, because they built Battlefield Labs, a new tool and focus group program that let players, veterans, and content creators play the game and test it all the way throughout its entire development. That is not something that we've ever seen from this series. Hell, it's not even something that we've ever even seen from AAA in general. It's a system that mirrors early access, but from a publisher that's traditionally been the farthest thing from community-driven. And from what we've all seen for games that have gone through early access and what it's done for those games that have used it well, it looks like it's working here too. My biggest criticism of the modern games industry is just how stupid these guys are. They are so dumb. It's like they're allergic to making money. How many times have you guys heard, making a good game is a lot harder than you think? No, it's not. Not when you have audiences that literally tell you exactly what they want from you. It's like going into an ice cream shop, asking for strawberry ice cream. The guy's standing right in front of it, and he says, oh, that's a lot harder than it looks. No, it's not. Give me the ice cream. Across every major franchise, players have been telling people exactly what they want from them. All they have to do is deliver it. Battlefield fans for years have been crying for the series to go back to BF3 or Bad Company 2, and all they had to do was just tap into the IP that they already owned, that they made themselves, modernize it a little bit, throw in some quality of life, shine it up, and sell it to them. You do not need to reinvent the fucking wheel to be able to reach wider audiences. What you need to do is listen to the audiences that you do have, the ones that have already committed money to your games, implement their feedback, bring up the game to a higher quality, and let the players sell the game for you. Free financial advice, legendary drops. I'm here every week. I genuinely think that Battlefield 2042, Immortals of Avium, and more importantly, Dragon Age the Veilguard taught EA just how much they had lost the plot. They had lost a lot of money on those games, which obviously is probably a shock for those guys. And on top of that, well, they had so much negative feedback from those games that it was impossible for them not to pay attention to it. So they probably just took a step back and said, you know what, screw it. We're just going to listen to exactly what the players want. We're going to make a game specifically that they are asking for, and we'll see if it works. And I think that's going to pay off in spades for these guys. I think it's going to do really well. Again, this all depends on whether or not the game fully delivers. We're only seeing a slice of it right now, but I think that we would smell bullshit by now. But you never know in a lot of these cases. Either way, it feels like EA is listening and putting the players first. That feels gross. I'm never saying that again. I'll never say that again. This kind of openness, this kind of humility is rare, especially for a company like EA. And if it holds, if it works, barring any major fuck-ups, then I think something like this could genuinely change the entire Western games industry. Because it could change the way the games are made. It could change the reason why they're made and who they're made for, which is the most important part. And as we've learned over the last few years, well, this industry really likes to play follow the leader. Now, I normally wouldn't be saying something so optimistic if it wasn't for the fact that I have been studying this game closely, following every announcement, watching every event, tracking player feedback, and getting firsthand experience playing the game myself. And everything that I have seen up until this point is leading to one conclusion, which is that Battlefield 6 is exactly what it claims to be. It feels like Battlefield 3 or 4, but with better graphics, sharper sound design, modern mechanics, and a higher level of polish, and they did it all based on the demands of their audience. I feel like I am stating the obvious here when I say that the US games industry has been in free fall. Outside of Epic milking Fortnite and Rockstar coasting off of GTA, it has been flop after flop. Live service or single player, it does not matter. Almost every single major publisher is bleeding right now, and the root cause is simple. They stopped listening. They convinced themselves that they were smarter than their own audience. They started chasing Hollywood trends, and they creatively bankrupted themselves in the pursuit of bigger margins for their investors. And while Battlefield 6 being a success isn't going to fix that overnight, and likely will still also have all of the live service shit that most people complain about, I do think that its success could be the first move in a much larger shift. I don't know, man. This all just feels like a rubber band effect. These companies have stretched themselves as far as they could on messaging, on themes, on budgets, on target audiences, on game design, but none of them ever thought to pull back. Not a single one of them asking if the basics still worked. And if you look across the past decade of gaming, you can see the pressure building, especially from the customer side. From Gamergate to the more recent backlash people are seeing as its spiritual successor, the conversation is constantly being hijacked by political framing, but underneath all of that noise, the actual concern is painfully clear. It's been about the ethics and quality in game design. It's been about the collapse of trust in journalism. It's been about the players who feel ignored, talked down to, undervalued, and shoved out of hobbies that they built. You can pretend like it's noise, you can hope that it fades, but eventually when that feedback is this consistent, this loud, and this sustained, sooner or later somebody is going to have to listen. And it's like I said before, the only language that these companies speak is money. After enough losses, it's only a matter of time before one of them steps forward and says, hey, why don't we try something different? And as ridiculous as it might sound, I genuinely believe that after the collapse of Battlefield 2042, the almost $200 million lost on Immortals of Avium, and the backlash around Dragon Age the Veilguard, players finally made it impossible for EA not to hear them. Not just about identity politics, but on quality, on vision, on the complete loss of identity in the franchises that used to define this company. They watched as the so-called cave-dwelling gamers, the loyal ones that always showed up for every single release, stopped showing up. And then they were forced to confront the obvious: if you won't serve the core audience, you won't have an audience, because you sure as hell aren't attracting new ones if you're burning the old ones. It's like this entire industry just forgot how powerful a core audience is, or how they are the single most reliable path to new players. You do not need to chase viral trends. You do not need to hijack pop culture. All you need to do is just build something that people care about and let them talk about it. That's exactly what we're doing right now. That's why people are watching this video. That's how it works. Look at the biggest success stories over the past couple of years. Expedition 33 became a 2025 Game of the Year contender because it nailed a vision and delivered itself for a core audience. That's how it works. Helldivers 2, the exact same thing. No flashy marketing campaign, no trendy crossover, just a damn good game for the people it was meant for. And if AAA companies need a big budget example, look at Monster Hunter Wilds, fastest selling game in franchise history. And it happened because Capcom consistently delivered on what Monster Hunter fans loved about the series. Sure, they've definitely started to drift. The game is noticeably easier. The optimization is an absolute mess. And yeah, they're probably overreaching now, but that's the rubber band effect all over again. But Monster Hunter Wilds doesn't become a financial success without the foundation that was laid by the previous games. It's the long tail of trust and quality, and that's something that this industry just keeps forgetting. If Battlefield 6 works, if it proves that just making a game that players asked for is the most profitable move that you can make, you will absolutely see other companies follow, because what they're doing right now, it's not working. They're stretching their audience to a breaking point. They burn through all of their goodwill, and they bet the house on trends that never landed. And the best path forward for these guys, and the one that they're going to see, is the easiest one possible, and it's just listening. Now, something I brought up in my last video was the idea of AAA live service games entering into some form of early access years before release, just to make sure that developers are actually building something people want to play. It's a great way to be able to get funding, test interest, and gather valuable feedback. But in hindsight, I realized that there's a really big marketing problem that's baked into that, because AAA, by definition, is supposed to represent the highest quality gaming experience available. So when you show off something that's half-baked, something that looks janky, unpolished, or bare bones, it can absolutely tank your game before it even has a chance to find its footing. In this industry, first impressions aren't just important. More times than not, they are permanent, especially when you are fighting for attention in a market that has thousands of games that release every single year, and players will just forget you the moment that you slip up. Actually, sometime last year, I put out a video on Soulframe, the next game from Digital Extremes, the same team behind Warframe. They had released gameplay footage and called the development phase Preludes, essentially an open dev structure. The problem is, nobody outside of their core community knows what the hell that even means. So, massive content creators reacted to the footage of the game, assuming that it was nearing its launch, and said it looked terrible, which it actually should have, because the game is in pre-alpha. But that context was missing. They never said that in any of their trailers, and without that context, players didn't see the potential in the game. They saw a broken game, and that perception stuck. So in hindsight, I actually think that the biggest lesson learned from Battlefield 6 is probably going to be Battlefield Labs. I think that might actually be the blueprint moving forward for a lot of these companies. Not a full-blown public early access, not a trailer dumped without any explanation, just a structured, curated feedback loop with real players, content creators, and invested community members. Something that happens quietly behind the scenes in early development, long before marketing ever kicks in. It's not about showing your game to the world, it's about building a game with the people that care about it the most. EA didn't just rely on their internal QA or third-party contractors, but they brought in fans, veterans, and content creators to be able to test the game through every single stage. Something like that, at this scale, is absolutely unprecedented. And if Battlefield 6 launches and proves that that kind of approach works, if it hits and players actually feel heard and represented in the final product, do not be surprised if you guys start seeing Battlefield Lab style programs popping up all across the industry, especially for live service titles where long-term retention depends on early buy-in and consistent engagement. It's a controlled form of early access, one that protects the brand image while also incorporating feedback and time to actually matter. Genuinely, if Battlefield 6 lands the way that it looks like it will, it's not just going to be a win for EA. I think it's going to be proof that listening actually works, that quality still matters, that the road back from the industry collapse isn't paved with trends or gimmicks, it's just built on trust. And if EA, of all companies, can figure that out, then there might actually be some hope for the rest of them. I mean, I didn't even bring up that they're doing a beta, an open beta, 2 months before the game releases. Like, they're going to use data to implement it into the game and put player feedback and fix the game before launch. What are you doing? This isn't just to be able to sell more copies before a game's actual release. Are you guys okay over there? What's happening? Well, on top of that, you don't even have to pre-order the game to be able to actually even play in the beta in the first place. Are you guys out of your mind? Look at all that money you just lost right there. I saw so many people in my pre-order video that were talking about, well, I'm pre-ordering the game because I want to get access to the game early because I want to play in the beta. And I'm like, nobody actually had to pay for the beta. Literally anybody could get into it, which is a really cool move by EA. I'll give them credit for that. Self-aware might actually be the best term for these guys because that's what it feels like. They're actually learning right now. The cat, can you guys see this? The cat's laying in the seat behind me. I know that I'm probably getting my hopes up. I realize that. I can already hear the resounding cynicism in my comment section. Good. Be that way. If I'm coping, be the ones that are not coping. If we're all coping together, then it's completely fine. But I do think that a good, well-made AAA live service game might be the only message that this industry will hear. It's the only thing that they're going to listen to. And if this works and the game does well, these guys, they're not free thinkers. They're just going to follow exactly what EA did because they're going to hear their investors start barking, and then all of a sudden these CEOs are going to walk in and start pretending like it was their idea. The way that EA has carried themselves, the way that their developers have presented themselves, everything is pointing to this game being good on release. And I hope that that ends up being the case. And if it is the case, I think this is going to be the clearest example that we've ever had of us not supporting these shit games, dragging them through the mud, closing our wallets and making our voices heard, actually having a genuine effect on the industry. Because we're starting to see it actually reflected in some of the games that are releasing already, which is crazy to see. And I think that they're starting to wake up to realize that they are nothing without us, which is the lesson they need to be learning. But this whole thing with Battlefield 6, if I end up being wrong, that proves that I can be wrong. That's not a good thing. That's not a good look. I can't be wrong. I got to figure out some way to be able to explain it away like Pirate Software. I worked in construction for 7 years. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just want the game to be good. I want games to be good in general. And if EA is the one to change that, which likely won't have any effect on their sports games, which is really sad, to be honest with you. EA, if you're listening, bring NHL to PC. Sorry, I'm weak. I like hockey, and there's nothing to play. I don't like playing on console. Sorry. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends, share it online, share it on social media, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch. If you guys want to play Battlefield, well, we got a bunch of people that are playing in the Discord. Join the Discord, the community Discord. Be kind, be civil, or you will be destroyed. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Family.